Guys, welcome back to the channel. Change of pace. Today we have the NBA playoffs preview, and joining me again, as usual, the legend from WrestlePlug, Aeron Nix. Big up the Heat. Big up the Miami Heat. Number
Miami! Oh, baby, we are
number
back.
one seed this year. Against all odds. Against all odds, really. Yeah, we'll start. We'll start at the top. You know, how do you think the Heat season went? You know,
I mean, we're the number one seeds, 53 and 29. The chasing pack. Like, I've got to be honest. Like, with about a month to go, I thought we were gonna. It was one of those weird seasons where I thought, are we going to win it, or are we going to finish fourth or fifth? It's been a great season. Victor Oladipo coming down the back end has been fucking fantastic. Hit 40 the other night and against the Magic, last game of the season. He looks like he's coming good at the right time. It just feels like a more complete version of the Heat culture that we saw 2 years ago that got to the NBA Finals and obviously got done in by LeBron's Lakers. And it just feels that little bit more special, you know? Just feels like there's a little bit more energy about it. I know we were in Heat, we were in the playoffs last season, obviously got completely steamrolled, Bucks in 4. You know, that's cool, man. Like, you know what? I don't know. People hate the Heat for whatever reason. They're really hating on us this season, but I'm very, 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 very happy. Very, very happy because the Celtics, the Bucks, I think the 76ers as well, they were like tied with the same record, you know, second, third, or fourth. And you're just thinking they were the pack. Like, they were chasing, and we're very lucky. Like, we came good when it mattered most. So what can I say, mate? I'm happy. I'm very happy. So yeah, onwards and upwards to another championship, innit?
do you believe the veteran presence and additions of Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker made a massive difference to the team?
Lowry, especially, we have this, habit. Obviously, Riley brings in. He kind of throws the bank at it. He'll hit a system reset, and he'll be like, right, salary cap money, boom, let's bring it all in. And he brings in great players. And the team from 2 years ago with Butler and things like that, you're thinking, okay, but it was still like, if you remove Butler from the equation, a really young team with players that are still trying to really find their way in the league and still trying to become, the players that you want them to be. And obviously that's kind of been changed with Lowry coming in because he's just more of, like you say, he's a veteran presence. We're not talking about a guy who's, he's got talent, but is he, has he got the potential? Tyler Hero as well has really, as the point guard, it's just exploded. There's a maturity about this squad. But it's not the Miami Heat podcast, is it? Let's be real. We're talking about all of the NBA for the previews, and there's a lot of good teams, and they're all going to fall at the feet of the Heat. I'm ready.
Yeah. So we'll start off, obviously, earlier on tonight. If you're watching this, probably later, you'll know the results of some other games. But we'll start with the 2-7 matchup, which was set today. It's the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, no, it's not actually. Sorry, it's the Boston Celtics taking on the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, an Atlantic Division matchup. Were you really surprised on how well the Celtics did this season?
Do you know what? This is a weird year because obviously, the Bulls were running it close as well for a long time, weren't they? With the Heat, they were going back and forth as well, and it was really weird. It was like a throwback to sort of the early days of me watching basketball back in the early 90s and stuff. The Bulls were relevant, the Celtics are relevant, and the Heat, well, not so much back then. Let's be real. And no, because of the culture that's there. They always play solid, dependable, clever basketball. They play by the numbers. They play by the statistics. They're a good franchise, and they have their shit together. Have you noticed this? The Lakers and the Bulls have just gone and just kind of disappeared a little bit until obviously LeBron comes in. And even in this season, I mean, look at the Lakers this year. Sorry, LeBron is old. He's running out of steam. at least for my money. But at the same time, you look at the Celtics, they stay relevant. They stay clever. They stay smart. They're a high IQ franchise. I always talk about this with every sport. I talk about this when we talk about NFL and stuff. It's all about IQ. It's not just about raw athleticism, because if it was, let's be honest, Brooklyn Nets would probably be the number 1 seeds. Low IQ. Like, amazing athletes, low IQ. That is not the case for the Celtics. They're a high IQ franchise.
Do you believe that? I think with the Brooklyn Nets, obviously, they've got the immense, firepower. They were up 20 in the game earlier against the Cleveland Cavs. They did let the Cavs in. And do you think that may be the real issue when it comes to playoffs, that even though they can build these leads, you never believe they're home and hosed in games. You always believe that the other team has a chance to, get back in, even though they have shown the ability to lock down on defense in periods, that the Brooklyn Nets will always give their opposition a chance to score the ball.
What I've seen with the Nets, especially last season, and it's still really prevalent this season, is if you look at the roster of players, your Durant, your Irving, Steph Curry, I don't think they're a prominent team defensively, like in any way. No. Do you know what this reminds me of? A little bit like the Thunder when they had the kind of triple threat dynamic with the original kind of thing, when you had Durant and you had Westbrook and you have to refresh my memory. Thank you very much. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, there's a lot of great talent here, but again, high IQ, low IQ. I've mentioned Kyrie Irving, whatever you want to say. Like, people are more interested in his vaccine status than they are like how he plays, which is disappointing because he's a talented player. But with the Brooklyn Nets, they feel a little bit like they kind of feel like the New York Knicks when they were somewhat prominent, but still didn't win didn't win a chip. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, yo, they're flash because it's New York City and it's Jay-Z and it's black and white, black and silver, and it's this beautiful arena. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But where's the substance? Where's the higher IQ? Have you noticed this? All the teams that are prominent franchises, the prominent dynasties, they might have a bit of flash, but they have a lot of intelligence and ruthlessness as well. I kind of think, like a lot of people, that Kevin Durant is a little soft. I think he's a little soft. That's just my opinion. And I think that kind of runs through the franchise a little bit soft. And I think they'll get found out very quickly in the early rounds. And I think the Celtics will dispatch them pretty easily.
So we're moving on now to our 3-6 game. We've also got the defending champions, the Milwaukee Bucks, taking on a team that's
those guys. Fuck them. You know what? Fuck you, Bucks fans. You're in my fucking DMs. You're in my fucking mentions, banging on with your unpronounceable fucking players. Like, fuck this shit. They hate us. I don't get what it is. It's the same with Philadelphia. Rent free, mate. Rent free. They were just like, oh yeah, you're only a decent franchise.
Like Brook Lopez.
Yeah, like fucking yeah, it's all right. Like it's one of those things. They just, Bucks fans, cry some more. You ain't number 1 seed. Cry some more, innit? You had your fun last season. I think that's going to come back and bite you in the fucking ass. That being said, I actually think this is the matchup in the East for the first round of the playoffs. The first round proper. I know we've got this weird kind of play-in tournament going on. I'm not personally a fan, but obviously we're looking at it right now. I think the Bucks in 6. That's what I think.
No, I personally think the Bucks will dispatch the Bulls quite easily. I think the Bulls have been on a real downward spiral coming into the playoffs. They were fighting for the number 1 seed, through the majority of the season. DeMar DeRozan has been fantastic, throughout the season. Zach LaVine, obviously, but I think the Bucks will, show their experience, and I think they'd advance this round. I don't see a deep run for the Bucks this year. They haven't looked, their almighty self of last season. they've obviously had a few injury problems, but so's all the other teams. But I think they should relatively easily handle the Bulls in the first round. And then moving on to our last game, which is the Toronto Raptors taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Another intriguing matchup.
I flatly refuse to give the 76ers any credit. Right, they are the whingiest fucking fans on earth. So fuck them. It's the same guys. James Harden just it just won't go away. The beard won't go away. Joel Embiid, I don't know. Like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I just don't think they have a winning mentality. We see this every year, right? For what feels like about 10 years now. It's like, are the 76ers going to come good? They never do. They never come good. I think that they should dispatch the Raptors. I think so. I think they're better. I do. But not by much. And do you know what? Again, Harden, mentally, bit soft. That's just my opinion. A bit soft again. Like, he's another one. He just, he keeps bouncing around. Do you remember when LeBron went to the Heat and all the bullshit about how, like, you got to team up with your friends to win a chip. You can't do it by yourself. You can't take Cleveland to the promised land. So what's James Harden doing? Keeps going around to all these different places trying to build a magical three. And to be honest, I never feel like he's got as close as he did when he was with the Thunder, which I believe are still you boys. I assume they're still you boys. I don't know. I think they will beat the Raptors, but I don't think they're going to go deep in the playoffs. I don't.
I feel like the Sixers are built for the regular season. They're pretty much a team that can dispatch anyone on their day, especially in the regular season. But when it comes down to grinding out results, in the pressure situations, they proved that last year when they faced the Hawks. The Hawks coming in as the lowest seed and upsetting them. And in some games they were fairly comfortable, and they displayed great comebacks in some of those games as well. And obviously they traded away Ben Simmons for James Harden, but James Harden, he showed vulnerability this season. He showed that he's getting on a bit, and if he's not getting to the line and he's not shooting, then there's major issues with him, at times, and especially in the playoffs. We've seen it in the playoffs with him. You've obviously got Joel Embiid, who pretty much needs to carry them. And if he gets in,
just the numbers,
and if he gets in foul trouble or injury trouble, he has had a long history of injuries, especially in the last year's playoffs as well against Atlanta. He had a lot of injury problems then, so it'd be interesting to see how that fits into the Sixers' chances.
I mean, I will give Joel Embiid credit. Like, I believe he's the first center since Shaquille O'Neal to win the scoring title. This is impressive. But again, these are all this is fantasy stuff. These are fantasy stats. They're padding. And some of these franchises, even the Heat to a certain extent, have a pedigree and an assassin-like mentality when it comes to playoffs. The Bucks have it to a certain extent, especially last season, obviously. But not so much a franchise like the 76ers. And it's the same with the Nets. And I'm looking at these three franchises. I'm looking at the Nets, I'm looking at the 76ers, and I'm looking at, probably those two, actually. Never mind the three, just those two especially. A lot of flash, a lot of sizzle, not much substance. Where's the meat of the matter? Where's the assassin's mentality? Until you prove it, I'm not going to sit here and, wax lyrical about how fantastic you are. We see this in every sport. But the reason, people believe Jordan to be the greatest of all time, and I certainly do, is because he was a fucking assassin. He didn't care to step on your neck. How many of these franchises and how many of these players, James Harden, it's just not a player who's going to step on your neck. Vulnerable. Like you said, vulnerable. When was the last time you could have said an MJ or, look at all the greats, the Larry Birds. Vulnerability is not something they have. You can't be vulnerable and be a champion. You can't. Not in my opinion. So I'm thoroughly unimpressed by the presence of the 76ers, and I will forever be that way inclined, I'm afraid. Fuck them. Fuck them 76ers.
Yeah. So moving on now to, we'll have to go to the Western Conference. Obviously, we can't talk a lot about some of the games because two of them haven't been set up. But we'll talk about the number one seeds, the Western Conference champions from last season, the Phoenix Suns, continuing their great form from last season. They were surprised last season. No one's surprised this season. They've come out of, their red Ferrari this season rather than their Mini from last season. It's been another good season. Been a good season for Monty Williams and the crew. Let's just talk about their chances. What do you think their chances are at reaching the NBA Finals again this season?
I think it's the classic case of falling at the final hurdle and being ready for it the next season. They are easily, regular season, obviously, the best team in the NBA. That's not up for discussion. The record proves that. The quality of basketball proves that. I think this season there's a real edge. There is a mentality of, this season we're coming back, and this time we're going to step on everything. And the West is always so much more competitive than the East, and I think bearing in mind I'm a Miami Heat fan, I think the West plays better basketball all round. I think it's there was a point, you'll remember this, where arguably the top 12 in the Western Conference could give like the number one seed in the Eastern Conference a run for their money every time, just because of the sheer level of strength and quality and star power. And it has the balance has been addressed somewhat, but I think the Suns are the favourites to win the NBA championship, and I've not seen anybody, even my beloved Heat, who look like they are capable of knocking them off, especially in 7 games. I don't see that. I do like the Grizzlies. I do. I really like the Grizzlies. Again, very compact, very aggressive, great defensive outlet. But star power, again, assassin's mentality. Have they got it? Still yet to prove it. Still don't believe it. Do you think the Suns are the favourites to win the NBA championship?
Yeah, I think so. I think with what happened last season, obviously gaining more experience, I think we've got the experience of Chris Paul. You've obviously got Devin Booker who can, score with the best of them as well. I think he's got that kind of mentality, kind of win now mentality. DeAndre Ayton as well, fantastic player. And the center position, you've got players like Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges. They've got players that can fill roles as well. Even Campaign, has proven that he can step in as a backup point guard and provide, energy off the bench. I think for me, Phoenix have got to be favourites. But looking at the field in both conferences, there's a lot of teams that can cause problems, and Phoenix can't really count their chickens because there's a lot of, hard matchups in their way towards, the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you who is a real difference maker is Cameron Johnson for the Suns. He reminds me of Ray Allen. Just this kind of assassin-like mentality from the 3-point line. Like he nails it. I think he had like one of the highest percentages in the league this season, somewhere around 42 or so, in terms of like completion rate for 3-pointers, which when you think about it, is very impressive. And obviously the game has evolved. It's not as, the driving to the paint mentality, it's still there, but it's just not as strong as it used to be. I think the Golden State Warriors kind of changed the game with that. And again, Stephen Curry, he steps up and he makes the most 3-pointers of the season. But that's kind of like a misnomer because you're just like, yeah, but that's just his game. But I look at Johnson and he's clutch. And I think if he plays to his ability, I think that they have the edge over pretty much anybody. Another guy he reminds me of is obviously Duncan Robinson. He's just got that kind of thing. If he gets into a streak, he is unstoppable from the 3-point line, and you're not going to stop him. You're not going to stop him getting 3-pointers. So that's going to be imperative to every player. And I guarantee you, when it comes down to the stretch, the tougher teams on defense, like the Grizzlies, and that, they will, if they get a shot at him, they get a shot at the Suns, they will target him. I think so.
I think we'll move on and talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, I think the surprise package this season, second seeds under Taylor Jenkins. They were in the playoff tournament last season where they actually shocked the Golden State Warriors to actually advance into the playoffs last season. They didn't make it far in the playoffs last season. This season, number 2 seeds, led by John Morant, who probably will be named as the most improved player. Desmond Bane has made fantastic strides as well. Steven Adams has been a wise pickup for them. I think in a win-win move for both teams in that trade. And they've got players like Tyus Jones, who rarely makes mistakes. Carl Anderson, who's a two-way player who just does things well. Jaren Jackson Jr., very underrated big man. He can shoot the ball.
Yeah, but he's also lethal with blocks. That's a guy who led the league in blocks per game. And this is what I mean. Grizzlies, physical, living up to that nickname. That's what they do. That's almost like their new identity in a lot of ways. They are aggressive on defense, and they are happy to challenge you if you try and push them in the paint. And that's exactly where Jackson comes in. And obviously Desmond Bane as well. Again, another sniper, somebody from the 3-point line who is going to be dangerous. The second most proficient 3-point shooter in the league. Just money, absolute money. What I love about them is there isn't that much flash. There isn't much this isn't a glamorous franchise. This isn't a franchise of star players. This is a unit, a team of heavy hitters, of just journeymen and everyman and skill players and utility players who all fit the role and all work for the head coach. It's a great thing to watch. If you're in, because they're not really underdogs, obviously, because they're the second seed, but at the same time, it's hard not to want to root for them, to see them do well. They're the team I want the Heat to play in the NBA Finals, if it's going to be that way, because I just feel like they're a team that's deserving of that special moment. They're deserving of that platform. And these kind of players, I don't know. I just think they're a very likable franchise. They're a very likable franchise for me.
And I think the lead in the league in offensive rebounds as well was, very helpful for them as well. I think the leadership of Steven Adams as well. A lot of people actually clown Steven Adams because he was part of the James Harden trade. But, to be honest, he's done a good job in Oklahoma City as well. An energy guy, played defense, got rebounds, done the dirty work, put his body on the line and stuff, set screens and stuff like that. And it's stuff that doesn't get measured, which Steven Adams is very good at. And people will look back on his career and look at the numbers and think that he didn't really contribute much, but he's very much a winner, and he brings that winning kind of culture and mentality that maybe Jonas Valanciunas didn't bring last season, even though he had the better numbers.
Adams is, for me, an engine room player. And there's that kind of, he's the player who does what's necessary so that somebody else can play the piano. He's that kind of player. You hear this analogy of so-and-so does the dirty work. That's him. That's that guy. He does everything that is needed to make it happen. And this probably, like you say, there was the trade and everyone kind of clowned him for it. And, well, joke's on them really a little bit, isn't it? Look at what he's doing. All right, he's not getting the numbers. He's not going to be padding your fantasy stats anytime soon, but he's a natural born leader and he's a winner. He's got a winning mentality. And in basketball, there's actually a lot of people missing in terms of winning mentality. It used to be full of assassins, not so much anymore. Not so much anymore.
So we're going to move on to the 3-6 match. Golden State taking on Denver. This is another point you mentioned before about the West Coast, Western Conference being quite stacked here. Denver as a 6th seed. Obviously, no Jamal Murray. For Golden State, I think their hopes rest on whether Stephen Curry can actually get back, because I don't really see them going far without him. But yeah, obviously they have shown improvement this season. Klay Thompson coming back, Draymond Green as well. What do you think of Golden State's chances in this first round match?
I think of all the high seeds, they're the most at threat of being eliminated early. And it's not because they don't have the quality, but like you say, is Stephen Curry going to come out? And if he does, is he going? This has become a really injury-prone franchise since the kind of the golden, era, or they would call it the Golden State era. They have the quality, but the fitness is always a problem. Klay Thompson's not carrying them. He's not doing that. He's not that kind of player. Again, Stephen Curry, I think it's something like, I think it's around maybe close to 300, completions of 3-pointers this season, the highest in the league. I don't know what the percentage is in terms of how many attempts, because obviously that can kind of skew it a little bit. But it is that thing of like, they'll go as far as he can take them. And if he can't, I think that they're playing the Nuggets, right? In the first round. Yeah, I like the Nuggets. Compact. Again, it's another strong team on the block. It's another strong rebounding team as well. And if they're not making it, again, this is the thing. Like, okay, Stephen Curry, yeah, he's an assassin from downtown. We all know that. But he's not going to be red hot every single game if he does play. And if he does and he's not red hot, they are going to pick that apart. Because who's going to challenge Denver in the paint? I don't think they have the capabilities of that. They're a very lightweight franchise. So, and again, I don't know why, but every season it's injuries, isn't it? It's all we talk about with the Golden State Warriors. Don't get me wrong. Lovely guys, great franchise, good play. You can't not like someone like Stephen Curry, but yeah, if I'm going to pick a team to fall early, who should be doing quite well and going deep in the playoffs, I quite fancy Golden State as right for the picking. I do. I think the Nuggets will have them. I think the Nuggets in 7. That's what I'm going for.
The chicken nuggets.
The cheeky chicken nuggets. Come on. Give us some of that. We love a chicken nugget, especially a spicy one at McDonald's, man. I've got Denver. Come on. Yo, I support the Broncos, so I may as well go with the Nuggets and all. Come on, Nuggets. Do it for Denver, mate, because Denver Broncos don't win jack fucking shit, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is quite weird with Golden State. Obviously, sometimes when you think of them, you think of the proficiency to shoot the free ball. But there's been a lot of times this season where they failed to crack 100 points despite having a lot of firepower in their team. They've got shooters. They've got Klay. They've got Stephen Curry, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, even Nemanja Bjelica. He's a decent 3-point shooter. They've got people who can shoot the ball.
They live and die by the free.
At times they've struggled.
They live and die by the free. That is the identity of this franchise. Live and die by the free. However, again, like I mentioned, rebounds. Jokic. A fucking tank, an absolute tank. Do you know what it is? It's like watching a beautiful finesse martial artist against a Viking with an axe. That's what it feels like. And it will come down to how good is the finesse when you get punched in the mouth. Because if Denver can catch up with them and hit them in the mouth, they're in big trouble. Don't count out the fact that, that they do have quality going forward. They are not just a team that's going to beat you up. They can shoot from free line. They can get in the paint really well as well. I like that. I really like the Nuggets. I feel like the Nuggets would be content if they were in the East. They'd probably smash up most people. They would. Like, this is the quality. I'm going with the Nuggets in 7. That's my big prediction. I'm sure that will haunt me, or some fucking troll will come after me on YouTube. But Nuggets in 7.
And then the last Western Conference first round match is the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Utah Jazz, and obviously the big news is surrounding the injury status of Luka Doncic for the Dallas Mavericks. And really, we don't like using the words carry, but this guy's, if carrying stuff would equate into injuries, this guy would probably have no back, because he's really been carrying a franchise for the last few years. And
He's been backed up by Beasley a little bit. Beasley's been making 3-pointers and helping him out. Beasley's kind of like what it is he pushes, out he goes, Beasley, bang. And he's fairly reliable. But other than that, no offense, I just look at the Mavericks and I think, without him, is he definitely not playing?
They don't know his injury status, so we're really unclear on whether he is going to play. But yeah,
without him, they're fucked. I think Rudy Gobert is going to eat them alive. Like, without him,
for me, they're in trouble. Especially, Rudy Gobert, as you say, Donovan Mitchell, the Utah Jazz, Mike Conley as well. The only way that the Dallas Mavericks are going to advance is if they can get Luka, back, and Jalen Brunson can, hold the fort for maybe the games where Luka's there. But I don't really see him as a viable, main, number one option on the team. And even if people like Tim Hardaway or Spencer Dinwiddie or Dorian Finney-Smith get relatively hot, I don't see the Dallas Mavericks actually winning this series. If I was a Utah Jazz fan, I'd be really disappointed if they don't advance, because they've got all the variables in their favor here. I feel like they're the experienced team. I feel like they've got the better players. Sure, the Dallas Mavericks have got the home court advantage, but I think this could be a home court disadvantage with Luka potentially out of maybe the first 2 games or whenever he's coming back. That's a, you're at home. You've got to win, these first 2 games. And Utah can just go, look, Luka's not playing. We've got a massive chance of putting a killer blow in these first 2 games and really, putting the Dallas Mavericks under the caution. I believe that's what they'll do, I think they led the league in points per game, the Utah Jazz. They do play a very up-tempo style of play. Rudy Gobert, he did have his problems in the last year's postseason defending on the perimeter. So we could see that being used by the Dallas Mavericks. But again, as I said, without Luka, I just don't see them, possessing that attacking, threat consistently, unfortunately for them.
Do you think the Jazz? What are you? I think we've both got the Jazz. Do you think that the Mavericks kind of, I don't know, drag it out, or do you think they just get swept quite easily?
I just think it depends on whether Luka is back for the maybe the game 2, 3, and 4.
I'll tell you what does interest me. Gobert is a potential trade thing, isn't he? He's up for trade, and apparently the Warriors are very keen on him. Now that's the kind of player the Warriors want. That's the kind of player. I'm staring at him. I'm licking my lips as somebody like that. I got to be honest. I think he's improved in terms of perimeter defense. I think he has. I think that's something that was recognised last season. It was kind of like his Achilles heel, and he's gone out and done work. He's still not fantastic at it, but there's noticeable improvement. And again, the Jazz are sitting there thinking, yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. I think the Jazz be dispatching the Mavericks, even if Luka plays. I think the pressure's a lot for him, and I'm not sure under serious pressure with a potential injury risk whether that's going to be good for the mentality of this franchise and this team going into the playoffs. I think the Jazz, cool, calm, collected, know what they need to do. Excellent in the paint. Rudy Gobert is a fucking giant in terms of paint work, rebounds. I quite like the Jazz in 6. Jazz in 6.
So before we go, we're going to just run through some of the awards as well. Obviously, we've got a potential 2-horse race and the MVP. We've had a lot of, there's been a lot of players in the MVP discussion throughout the year. You obviously had Stephen Curry, early to mid point of the season before his injury. He was in discussions. You've had players like DeMar DeRozan as well being put in MVP discussions. Giannis as well. Even LeBron earlier in the season before the Lakers went to pot. But it's come down to two names really. Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. It's a really difficult one for me to split. But who do you think has the edge here in terms of the MVP race?
I think the accusations against Joel Embiid is he's padding his numbers a bit. And that's why, because he's the numbers guy. He's the stats guy. I know Kevin Durant came out recently and was like, oh, he's easily the MVP because of the numbers. And I'm just like, okay. Jokic. For me, just a slightly more complete player. I will say one thing, though. As much as I don't like the 76ers, Embiid has had a fantastic season. It's one of those things where I just feel like whoever gets it, cool. It might add a motivating factor if it works for one or the other. In many ways, you would probably want Joel Embiid to win it because it would kind of piss someone like Jokic off more. So I don't know. I feel like whoever does win it, it will motivate the other one in some way to be better. But it's a weird one as well because it's not like it's kind of weird to not see a more glamorous name up there. It's kind of weird to not see a more franchise-based player. We're so used to it being one of the names, like a Giannis or a LeBron or even a Butler potentially and stuff like that. And I think that's what I'm really excited about with the Heat is that it has not been about individuals this season. It's been about a team effort. It's been about culture. Heat culture has been at the forefront of everything we've done. So fuck it. It's a pick 'em. It's a pick 'em. I'll give it to Jokic. Just probably because I don't like the 76ers that much. So sorry, Joel. It's not your fault, mate, but you play for a franchise with rotten fans. So I'll just go with give it to Jokic. That's what I'd say. Fuck it. Why not? There's no sitting on the fence here, mate. Jokic, my MVP.
I do agree with you. I think if you're taking MVP, most valuable player, I think he's, in terms of valuability for his team, I think he, far exceeds Joel Embiid's, value to the 76ers.
Relentless.
He is relentless. He's a multi-tool player as well. Passing, rebounding, scoring, whatever you want, 3 levels as well. He can shoot the 3, he can shoot the mid-range, and he can get to the cup as well. He can pass the ball. Jokic is he's not the most athletic player, but he's up there with being just probably the most rounded player in the NBA. If you look at him, if you take what he is on paper, he's a very, very well-rounded player and probably the best rounded player in the game at the moment. And I mean, if no Jokic, no party at the moment for the Nuggets, you know,
Yeah,
and
no. Hey, that's
yeah,
what, he's another reason why I have the Nuggets going over in the first round.
yeah.
I feel like he is the complete. There's something about the Nuggets, and I have a suspicious feeling they're going to go on a run here. I feel it. I can smell it. A little bit like the Heat, you know, a couple of years ago, and everyone was like, I remember you mocked me like Heat in the finals, get out of here, and I was just like, it's coming, and they ran into a juggernaut and they got swept aside. Really, they had a couple of culture games where they kind of stayed in it, but 4 games to 2, whatever. But I smell something good on the horizon, and it smells like chicken nuggets, baby. I'm ready. Give me some of that. Give me some of that.
I think the Heat kind of ran out of gas in that playoffs as well. They've been through a lot.
It was exhaustion, yeah. Like any Heat fan will tell you, just the quality of play from the Lakers. That was kind of like, if in some ways, actually, I feel like they've reached their apex by thrashing us out, and ever since it's kind of been a bit more of a struggle for them. And I don't know. It was the perfect storm for the Lakers, but like I say, people are like, stop talking about the Heat. I can't help it. I'm excited. I'm fucking thrilled to be the number 1 seed. A lot more pressure, but I quite fancy us. I really do. I'd expect us to be in the NBA Finals this season. I'd be disappointed if we weren't.
We're going to talk about now one award that really has come to fruition this year, and that's the most improved player. I feel like this year we've seen a lot of players make marked improvement to their game. Obviously, Ja Morant's the front runner for this award, but you've obviously had marked improvement from players like Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Tyler Hero has made giant leaps in his game as well, especially scoring the ball. There's been a lot of players, even Mikal Bridges at the Phoenix Suns, even Cam Johnson. There's been a lot of players in the NBA this season who have made, massive strides to their game. So who do you think, apart from maybe Ja Morant, who else do you think has kind of stood out and made a big improvement to their game this season?
Tyler Hero is, everyone's going to be like, well, of course he's going to pick Tyler Hero, but what you don't appreciate with Tyler Hero is like he's had a bit of a fucking, I don't know, he's been a bit petulant, but this season he's just matured. He just looks like an entirely different prospect. Like, he is one of the big reasons why we are in the number 1 seed, and he's not an MVP caliber player. I don't think so. I don't think he possibly potentially ever will be, but he does have the stud mentality. He does have that kind of like ability to turns it on. I tell you what I really like, it's a random pick, but I really like Sabonis for the Kings. I think he's had a great season. I know me, I really like defensive players. I like rebounders. And Sabonis is great at that. Some people might argue, he's because he's not improved as such. But I just feel like guys like that aren't going to get enough credit. And in this like most improved, what does that mean really? Like, who really cares? Like, for me, I'm like, okay, well, I would give it to someone like a Sabonis, because what else as a Kings player, what else are you going to do? Like, you ain't winning fuck all else, are you? To be fair, this guy worked his ass off. Great rebounder, great defensive player. I actually would not be surprised if he's used as a massive trading tool to try and help benefit the Kings. But it's the Kings, and it doesn't matter what they do; they're always going to be garbage.
Yeah, I mean, they could get
joke franchise, and they don't deserve to have good players like Sabonis. And get out of there, mate. Get out of there. Go out to Lithuania, mate. Probably make more money playing over there. Fucking, just saying. Fuck them Kings. Fuck them Kings. I mean, obviously, if you're looking for a money player, I'm going to say Tyler Hero, just because I'm biased, but I do like Sabonis. I wanted to I'll be the only person on earth giving a Kings player some love here, but works for me. Who you got?
I've got Ja Morant. I think he's the step ups he's made this season, elevating the Grizzlies to the 2 seed. some of the plays he makes as well are just, very good. They're out of the world. And I think earlier in the season, I thought Miles Bridges might have had a chance, but he's slowly, regressed, and John Morant's kept that form going. So I think he'll be picking up a piece of award at the end of the season. But we're going to wrap it up with our final prediction. You have said that you believe that Miami Heat will make the NBA Finals.
I will be having a shitty summer if we don't.
Who are they going to be playing in the NBA Finals?
The Denver Nuggets. I reckon the Denver Nuggets are the surprise package here. I just think the quality of the West is much tighter, and it's much it's compact, and I love the look of the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are going to get to, and I think it's really amusing because obviously whoever the Heat play, everyone's going to hope the Heat get smashed up. I don't know what it is. Everyone hates us. I think it's still because the LeBron effect, with Dwayne Wade and. Okay, cool, whatever. But, obviously, my boy Chris Bosh deserves a bit of love, bless him. Like, left the game too early for my money, but it is what it is. He didn't have a choice, did he? Bless him. For someone like me, obviously, I want the Heat to win. If we get the Suns, I think the Suns will beat the Heat in the NBA Finals. That's what I feel. But I do expect... I tell you, mate, I don't know why the Celtics make me nervous. They do. I look at the Celtics and I'm like, somebody do us a fucking favor here and dispatch these pricks. Because I just think they're going to make it difficult for it. I think if the Heat are going to make the finals as well, they're not going to breeze through. They're going to have to go through at least one series where they're tested into a 6 or 7 game series. I think that's going to happen. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's the Celtics that do that. I just think they're primed, they're ready. I think if I'm going purely with my head, it's a boring pick, but the Suns are the best franchise in the NBA, and I think Miami have the best culture, and I think that makes sense that they would face each other in the finals. But I really love the idea of this Cinderella mode that the Nuggets can be in, and if they start it off well and they make a bit of a fucking play early on. Don't know. I also really like the Grizzlies as well. I'd like to see the Grizzlies play in an NBA final. I just there's potential here. There really is potential. But I will be a massive fucking homer and say the Heat in 6 against the Denver Nuggets.
I think the Heat will get to the NBA Finals as well. But I think they'll play the Phoenix Suns, and I think the Phoenix Suns will win. I think the Suns could potentially. The Heat have, on occasion, got rolled mentally when it matters most, and I worry that the Suns could upset them really early in the game. They're the kind of team that will launch out into a lead, and the Heat. We got the pitbull mentality. It's that famous Heat culture of sticking around in a game. But I wouldn't want to play the Suns, and as a Heat fan, I definitely don't want to play the Suns in the final. It's the same as it was 2 years ago. The difference is then people were surprised that we got to the final. This year, there's an expectancy there. I think that the players will rise to that occasion. I really think they will. And to be honest, I'd be really happy with the season, with a number 1 seed and getting to it. It's very weird to say, hey, when the number 1 seeds, I'd be happy if we didn't win, we got to the finals. But in a way, I would be, because I think the quality of the West is so good that I don't think there's any shame in losing 20 of those teams, especially the Suns. It's boring, isn't it? But there's a reason why these teams are the number 1 seed. I do worry about Heat's propensity to lose silly games. I'm not sure if that's going to affect them in a best-of-7 series in the playoffs like it has. But, I've seen them play teams like the Magic and, let's be honest, bad franchises. And they get a little bit lackadaisical. So if anything, if they're going to get caught, it'll probably be early. Just simply from being a little bit tuned out. Players rested, taking it easy. I don't know.
but I expect an NBA final appearance, and I would love to see another championship.
Yes, fair enough, really. That is going to conclude our NBA preview for the playoffs. Always, as we say, don't forget to like, subscribe, and also mention in the comments who you think will win the NBA championship, because we always appreciate your feedback.
Okay. Come on.
There we
That's
go.
fucking loyalty, that is. Where's your thunder tat?
Where's
Yeah,
my Thunder Tat? I don't know.
No thunder tats, mate, because you is watching Thundercats, bruv. You get me? Nah.
Only Harry Potter's got one.
Love me some Radcliffe, to be fair. He's clearly
He's the only person with an OKC Thunder tattoo.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That is fair. That is fair. Yeah. Do you know what? Okay, cool. You can have Daniel Radcliffe where I have Emma Watson, innit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you very soon.